And it's 10 a.m. here in Lagos. Thank you for joining us. This is Business Morning live from Channels HQ. I'm Ladi Williams.
You're welcome. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Welcome to the show. Well, we'll start off with one of the burning economic issues or business issues. On Tuesday, the Federal Budget Director, Dr. Ben Akabueze, hinted that the federal government is considering the introduction of an excise tax on Telecom's airtime charges because of the need to raise additional revenue. This proposal has not been pleasant to some sectors, one of whom is the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, where we have the chairman of the association, Engineer Gbenga Adebayo, to bear his mind on the issue. Good morning, Engineer.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we know that this was made public on Tuesday at a meeting with the World Bank. Before then, were there prior discussion in your circle about this proposal of the federal government?
No, we haven't had any such discussion with anyone, and nobody has brought that consideration to our attention. I recall that about 4 years ago, there was a consideration for communications tax that was muted by government. We raised concerns about the implication on the economy and also on the users, and at the time the issue was rested. So we are taking it back to hear in the news in the last couple of days about government considering introduction of excise tax on telecom airtime. In our view, that's quite misplaced. That would be against the spirit of our digital economy. The industry already suffers a lot of multiple taxation rates and levies across states. And to introduce this again will just make the cost of use provision of service to the end user a lot more difficult and not affordable by majority. I must also add very quickly that today the industry faces as much as 35 different taxes and levies across state and the federation. And at the end of the day, we have no choice than to transfer these charges to the consumer. So in our view, consideration for an excise tax on airtime at this time is misplaced. It's against the spirit of our digital economy, and we think that government should tread very carefully in this regard.
All right, but how is this supposed to work, with virtual top-up, which is the most common these days? And, who will protect the consumers in this talk?
Well, it will happen in such a way that government will have to have the operators collect those taxes and remit to the to government covers. And what it then means is that this eventually will have to be borne by the subscriber. So when you buy an airtime of 1,000 naira, for example, the true value you get for that airtime recharge will not be up to 1,000, will be 1,000 less the tax. And what that also means is that it will affect the value of what you get in terms of purchases. Unfortunately, as you may see, the sector has been one of those with the most, I'll say, stable tariff in the last 10 years. While cost of service provision has gone significantly up, our end user tariff has remained very constant. And in view of new innovations in technology, we have been able to bring more value to the users by way of introducing further digital services. And we think that the spirit of government, the attempt of government in this regard to introduce additional taxes on people will be against our spirit of growth and will be against our spirit of digital economy completely.
So Dr. Akabueze did note that Nigeria will not be the first. I mean, there are about 51 other countries doing this, and he noted the need to raise revenue. Don't you think that's a worthy cause?
No, it's not. The reason being that you can't tax the only thriving sector today. Today, telecom remains the most accessible and affordable service by all Nigerians, irrespective of what you do and irrespective of your income bracket. When you make it more difficult for people to access this service by way of affordability, it takes away the value that people get on their airtime purchases. So what we're saying is that in those jurisdictions where those taxes are levied, government fulfills certain obligations to service providers and citizens. For example, look at the issue of cost of providing services such as power and security. We bear all these costs as service providers. So, and if you again introduce this, it will increase the cost of doing business here. It will increase the cost of providing services for the subscribers. And at the end of the day, it is the average man on the street that will lose, not the operators. So we will only be collection agents for government, and we are only raising this concern for the best interest of the consumer. That government needs to tread very, very carefully. And again, government is talking about bringing many more people out of poverty. You give people loans to do small businesses. rely on digital access to do those services, but you compromise the ability to deliver on the service. So you empower them with a loan, you compromise the ability to access digital service to succeed. And at the end of the day, what we have just done is to give stipend instead of giving loan for reasons of doing businesses. So we think government needs to look in other direction. And let government work with and on other sector. Let other sectors strive as telecoms is striving. And not just to tax telecom service to death and tax the user of telecom services by all and any means.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Engineer Benga Debayo, for sharing your thoughts with us on this issue of excise tax
Thank you.
proposal by the federal government. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Well, the National Information Technology Development Agency is 20, and they want to tell us what they have been doing in 20 years. We have Dr. Vincent Olatunji. He's Director, E-Government Development and Regulation. He'll be joining us right after this break to tell us what the agency has been doing. Do stay with us.
All right, now to our next conversation. The National Information Technology Development Agency is to create a framework for the planning, research, development, and regulation of information technology practices and systems in Nigeria. About 30 months ago, the agency introduced the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation in a time when normalcy has shifted more to virtual and data. The National Information Technology Development Agency has a lot of work to do, but they will start with what they have done so far. And we're having this conversation with the Director, E-Government Development and Regulation, Dr. Vincent Olatunji. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good morning. Well, first of all, help us understand what you've been doing. You've been in existence for 20 years. What have you also been doing with data protection?
Thank you very much. As already mentioned, NIDA was established in 2001 after the approval of a national IT policy for the country. And our mandate is mainly to implement the national IT policy, to regulate the IT sector in Nigeria, and offer advisory services to all Nigerians, especially in the area of information technology. Now, coming to the issue of data protection, we know that with the advent of information technology in the early 80s, almost everything is moving online now, and that's actually changed the way we do things, the way we relate, the way we interact and do everything. And through that, it's like we're moving almost everything online. And what has happened recently, more importantly with the COVID, that almost everything was done online during the COVID, and going forward, that is what is going to be happening. And now we have a global digital economy, which is driven by data, and you see data as a critical resource in anything you want to do online. There's no way you want to do this that you won't upload your data, your information, and there is need to protect your privacy, whatever you share online, and that is what really bring about the issue of having data protection. Now, maybe we should just lay a foundation for the issue of data protection and privacy. It actually started with Convention 109 of European countries, and that was what really laid the foundation where all countries within the European Union came together to look at the issue of data privacy, and it was actually exposed for signature on the 28th of January 2001, and that is why we celebrate annual Data Protection Day on January 28th of every year. And looking at Nigeria, the foundation was laid in our constitution precisely by Section 37 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, which talked about privacy and individual rights. Now, looking at what is happening globally and the need and the fact that we have to put our information and data online, we felt it is important for us in NIDA. That was as far back as about 3 or 4 years ago that we should put something out there to create confidence and trust in whatever we are doing online. And that was why in 2019 we came up with the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, which we have started implementing. And the foundation also was based on the Convention 108 and closely linked to the global general data protection regulation of the European Union. And our own data protection regulation here is actually localized to what we are doing in Nigeria, and to ensure that we protect the right and freedom of our citizens wherever they have their data, either within or outside Nigeria. And this regulation covers whatever you do with people's data, both in the private and the public sector organizations, to ensure that whatever we put online, whatever we do online is adequately protected by law in Nigeria. And with this, we are kind of trying to create confidence and trust in whatever we do in terms of data sharing in Nigeria. And I think what is really important is for us to ensure that whatever we have there, there is integrity in terms of data protection. And we have put in place so many structures to ensure adequate implementation. And I'm glad to report that between when the regulation was issued and now, we've made a lot of successful, we've gained a lot of success, a lot of traction through what we've been doing in the implementation of the data protection in Nigeria.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Vincent, a lot of Nigerians will still ask about, can I really trust the system with my data? And that's why sometimes when the government is telling people, oh, you need to do this and you need that, there are a lot of questions. But other than that, how has the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy impacted on the objective of diversifying the economy? Because that is where we are at now. We're getting to the end of oil, so we're talking of diversifying the economy.
Thank you very much. I think the issue of diversify our national economy is really important. More importantly, that the oil that we depend on is drying up gradually, and a lot of, due to innovations, there are so many things coming up that oil may not really be a critical resource globally, and that's why we're talking about a knowledge economy. And what we have in Nigeria now, we have a national digital economy policy and strategy under the supervision of our Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. The plan is based on 7 major pillars, where you have digital developmental regulations, you have solid infrastructure, service infrastructure, soft infrastructure. We have some pillars dealing with innovations and entrepreneurship. We have some sections dealing with indigenous content promotion and digital transformation. Now, if you look at all these pillars that we have laid out, what we are trying to do is to ensure that there are so many activities that will bring together to ensure that we have a robust national digital economy for the country. And there are roles for all stakeholders to play, where the government is to create the enabling environment, and the private sector organizations to come in for investors, and even for the media, for the advocacy group that will go out there to talk about what we are doing in the area of digital economy. And we're happy to report that between when the policy was launched and now, the contribution of this sector to our GDP is over 14.78% now, as compared to less than 4% some years back. And this is the new trend globally. And we cannot, as a country, we cannot say we don't want to go through that route, because if we want to continue to depend on our oil, to get a state that it will no more be relevant. And when you are talking about a global digital economy, that is really important. And if you tie this to what we have done with the NDPR, that is why it is really important to look at both together. For instance, between when we started implementing the NDPR and now, we have created a market, an economy on its own that is worth over 5.2 billion naira currently. And this sector has employed over 2,600 people. That is within 30 months of implementing the NDPR. And we have licensed, I think what really, why we have really achieved this much is the fact that we are working with the private sector organizations to ensure implementation, because there is one thing for you to have a policy or a plan or a regulation, is another thing for it to be effectively implemented. And through the data protection compliance organizations that we have licensed, we have 3 of them, that's why we're able to achieve this. So everything coming together, we are still looking at that, having a national digital economy, and the policy is what is driving it. And this NDPR is directly under pillar 1 of having developmental regulation for the digital economy sector in Nigeria.
Okay. Still looking at regulation, NIDA has issued 2 NDPR fines. Can you run us through what was considered and what should Nigerian companies, watch out for to avoid, unnecessary regulatory sanctions?
Thank you very much. I think one approach that we have used effectively for us is carrot and stick. And we believe more in encouraging organizations to comply. We want it to be a culture, not that you are being forced to comply, or want to go all out to issue fines before you comply. So we are doing a lot in the area of awareness creation, public sector organizations, private sector organizations, to ensure that they comply. Now, it is only when it is extremely difficult for us to really encourage you, and it is clearly obvious that you have some breaches in your data, that we all now go out to issue fines. And these fines are still part of the administrative procedures. We have not taken any organization to court. So the two fines that were issued are mainly through administrative procedures. One for a public sector organization and another one for a private sector organization. Usually, what happens is when the data breach is reported to us, the supervisory authority, that is NIDA, we send our team back. We have an investigation team made up of experts from different fields who are staff of NIDA and the officers from the Nigeria Police Force. We move into your organization. We write to you to explain to us what has happened. Because ideally, under the data protection regulation, you are supposed to report a data breach. You're calling your system within 72 hours. If that is not done, if you have to come to you, we will write to you to explain what has happened. After your explanation, there are some questionnaire that you fill. We'll come to your organization to do practical examination, evaluation of what has happened. Then if it's noticed that you are taking steps, remedial steps to ensure that you guard against this, then we cannot talk of issue administrative fines. So these two organizations that we have sanctioned, when these breaches happened, we invited them, we discussed with them, and immediately took remedial actions. And that was why their fines, I wouldn't say not too, the fines were not too big, but at least to show that, yes, we have a supervisory authority that will monitor you, that will sanction you when you don't protect the rights and freedom of citizens in terms of their data they are handling. So we have issued one for public sector and another one for the private sector. But the aim is not only about fines, it's about encouraging people to comply and ensuring that compliance is not a matter of culture, not something that somebody will stand behind you and be holding one big stick to hit you before you comply.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that a government organization does not see compliance as a means of making revenue for the government. Well, recently, NISA issued a public advisory on the use of WhatsApp. Tell us, what was that all about?
Thank you very much. I think January 4th this year, there was an update in the privacy policy of WhatsApp. Since it was acquired by Facebook, the advice was that they will now begin to share your data, your information with Facebook, which is their parent company. And when we saw that as the regulatory body in Nigeria and as being part of our mandate to issue advisory services to government and Nigerians, we issued an advisory service, an advisory notice to Nigeria that this is what has happened with WhatsApp's privacy policy. That is, they can now share your data with Facebook, and we encourage Nigerians. We notified Nigerians that if you want to go ahead, you can, but there are other options that you can use on social media that you can share your information or interact with people. But looking at the way we use WhatsApp in Nigeria, it has become part of us, and that is why it's really important for us to let Nigerians know what is happening and what is going on.
All right. All right.
After the issuance of the notice, we got we met. Right. We actually met with Facebook. They came to us and we discussed, and they are now saying that the advisory, the update is mainly for optional business features in the WhatsApp privacy policy. That is not compulsory, and they are going to encourage people. They are going to notify them to update their privacy policy. So it's not actually compulsory. You have a choice. You can do it or not.
All right, Dr. Olatunji. Thank you so much for watching our backs and ensuring that we are in safe territory when we are using WhatsApp and other social media. Dr. Vincent Olatunji is the Director, E-Government Development and Regulation. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and enjoy the rest of the day.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll take a short break. Now, when we come back, Business Morning continues. To stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, where crude oil prices fell today, pressured by a stronger U.S. dollar, but losses were limited to a big drop in crude oil inventories in the United States. The Brent crude oil futures dropped 74 cents to $73.65 a barrel after reaching its highest since April 2019 in the previous session. U.S. crude oil futures fell 69 cents to $71.46 a barrel after reaching its highest since October 2018, the previous day. Analysts believe this pullback in oil prices is temporal, as fundamentals on both the supply and demand side should easily be able to compensate for a rebounding dollar. Well, to discuss this and other burning economic issues, we have Pelumi Olanubi, a research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you so much, Pelumi, for coming the second time this week.
Is the bull market over?
What happened? I mean, we're cruising on the 74, and then this morning we just saw a drop in...
Well, the drop is not so significant, good, thank God, but majorly is actually because of slight decline in U.S. inventory, and we see that this is also going to push up prices in coming months. This is a very temporal impact because U.S. economy is still opening up. So many sectors are still opening up, so economic activities will still push up. But there is, as we all know, there is a direct relationship, how this affects us in Nigeria between the crude price and pump price. And as we've seen that recently the CBN actually adjusted the exchange rate to adopt NAFEX rate as the official exchange rate.
Yes.
So because of that, the landed cost of pump price has actually increased, and so we are seeing in the nearest in coming months is almost inevitable for us to see increase in pump price, basically because government cannot go on to subsidize for this, because this will affect our capital project. As we all know, the trade-off is either to keep subsidizing or to invest in capital projects, and most likely we'll see an increase in
and like you said on Tuesday, this would be a good time to start that infrastructural development capital project. And you said on your slide that increasing the price of PMS is now inevitable.
A lot
of Nigerians don't want to hear that.
We don't want to hear that's the truth, but we need to put all the figures on the table and let's see where we're heading. And now, as we know, like I said a minute ago, there is a direct relationship between crude Brent price and pump price because of the exchange rate impact and all that. As it is good news for our export earnings if we see Brent price increase. It's actually good news because our external receipts increases. But we know that we are also clamoring for this reform, total deregulation of the downstream oil sector, and there's this saying that goes, no pain, no gain. So there's a trade-off. Is it that we keep subsidizing for this fuel and we'll buy at the same rate, 185 that we get today, or we totally deregulate and allow
Do we even have the ability to keep subsidizing?
That is it.
Do we even have the ability? It's not like we have a lot of choices.
And they said they cannot keep remitting to the federal account because they themselves, they've made losses over earlier this year. So we can't even keep doing that. And as much as it is, we need this infrastructural investment for businesses, for the economy to grow, and also setting our priorities right. This increase in pump prices actually.
But how do we convince Nigerians? Because I mean, just the mention of it, just the thought of it, and we see protests, we see the labor union, we see the man on the street, protesting against it. Not even waiting to hear the reason or the consequences. So how do we get to the other side where we can get people to listen and say, this is a problem, we cannot sustain subsidy, we need to pay the price today for a better tomorrow?
Yes, one of the things that can be done, looking at the historical event that has happened, we've seen that largely, sadly so, Nigerians has actually lost, they've lost faith, in government promises and all. The go-to answer for anyone is that that's all they say. There is this upward trend is going to continue. But as we expect that Dangote refinery will soon start operation. So we hope that this increase in pump price might just be temporary. I mean, temporary can linger probably a year,
So
in a couple of
we
months.
shouldn't expect any assurances for July.
We shouldn't, because we
Yeah, the
shouldn't
monthly
because,
assurance.
yes, we shouldn't, because we are seeing the numbers, and we all know that even the federal government is incapacitated to do this. So most likely, there is high possibility that pump price will increase. This is going to depress the household income that is already compressed due to the pressure, inflationary pressure, and all that. So it's not a good news. I mean, I don't want to hear it, but this is where we are.
And talking of inflation, you mentioned inflation.
Yeah.
For a second time, analysts, economists were shocked. The MBS has shocked you guys the second time.
Second time.
I mean, it's not what market was expecting. Broadly, analysts expected an increase in inflation number for the month of May, but to our surprise, and the underlying drivers was that food inflation, food prices in the month of May actually declined. So we saw a decline in food inflation, and whereas for month-on-month inflation, we also saw that there was an increase month-on-month, and also there was an increase in core inflation, that is headline inflation minus the seasonality. So that means that in the real sense, it's not that prices are actually declining. What it simply means that the rate at which prices is actually declining. Also, MBS noted that an average household has actually reduced its food consumption by 56%, and also non-food consumption by 26%.
Saluma, have you reduced the intake food in your house? Have you reduced it? I haven't in my house. I don't know about you.
Well, relative, if I want to say absolutely, I would say yes, but relatively no, because there's always a way to sort of augment things. I might not be eating, of course, I'm not eating the portion I was before, not necessarily because of increase in price, but probably for other factors. But at the same time, I'm actually increasing some other intake that I have now, and as we see, people take advantage of seasonality in terms of talking about veggies and fruits. You see more people taking mangoes and other fruits that are in season. So all those factors are happening. But average Nigerian actually has reduced their food.
So that will encourage us to get healthy.
We have to do a vox pop to get we really have to. But there's also something in the UK. The economists also miss their projection of inflation. In their case, it was higher than they projected. What's going on? Are economists missing the
everywhere?
Well, I cannot categorically say for the UK, but for us in Nigeria, I can say to a large extent there is actually, I don't want to go into the figures, maths and all that, but there's actually a disparity between market realities and the figures that you're saying. And we've seen people raising questions and all that. But I would say that to the large extent, if you ask me, all the things I'm buying, they have not necessarily declined in price, especially food items. So we've seen this increase. Take any consumable, you will see that there is 100%, 150%, 80% increase in food prices. We'll be saying that. So, and for forecasts like this, for Nigeria, the way MBS conducts their own analysis, they take a basket of commodities across different states, and they assume that the consumption in Lagos and consumption in, say, Maiduguri or even Port Harcourt is the same thing. And we know that the consumption basket relatively in Lagos is more expensive, aside the fact that there is urbanization in Lagos, there is huge congestion, and we know that prices are relatively inflated compared to other states in Lagos. So a more accurate measure would have been probably to attach higher weight to states like probably Lagos, Port Harcourt, where we have so many, we have high congestion rate and what have you, compared to low states where we have less. And also another important factor to look at is our CPI basket. The last time it was constituted was 2009, and this is like 12 years thereabout ago, and that is not even reflecting.
So it needs to be updated.
It needs to be updated, although conversations have been going along in that direction, and I think probably next year we'll see a reconstitution of our CPI.
All right, Palumi, the World Bank has advised that Nigeria should open all borders so that these food prices can actually come down. What do you think?
Yes, we actually saw this report by the World Bank. I mean, it made the head news almost everywhere yesterday. How that a World Bank reported that about 7 million Nigerians actually fell.
And they noted surging inflation.
They noted
not
that
a drop
increase
in inflation.
Commodity prices, heightened inflation, insecurity issues, and
unemployment.
As well as reform, delayed reforms. These are the major factors that attributed to this And we know that talking about 7 million, like rightly said, these are not just arbitrary figures. These are human beings. These are people.
Real people.
Real people. Let's take, let me give this context to it. The whole of Sierra Leone, there are just 7.8 million people. The whole of Gambia, there are 2.5 million people. The whole of Libya is about 6.8 million. So we are talking about the size of a country falling into poverty. And these drivers are not fat-fed. The question is it like a egg and chicken? Because we're wondering, is it heightened insecurity that led to farmers not able to plant well, which led to shortage of food supply, that led people to poverty, or the high rate of unemployment and poverty led people to insecurity
and has stopped the farmers from going to the
So
farms.
whichever way we look at it, we need interventions. Now we've seen, of course, before the COVID, all these issues are there, but with the COVID and all that came with it, I meant the lockdown policy, social distancing and what have you, also aggravated the issue and made it more pronounced. Now we have 7 more people falling into poverty.
7 million.
7 million, thank you. And if nothing is being done, by 2022, expect another 11 million to fall into poverty. So these are actually questioning issues that ought to be taken care of. And one of the ways, or the major way, is reform. And as we all know, there's always a time lag between reforms and the impact. And not just that, what is the quantum of all these interventions and all these policies? What is the quantum? What is the size? These are also for us to see maximum impact. I mean, some of the states have actually reduced minimum wage back to 18,000 naira because they can't bear the cost.
They can't afford it.
And this also...
Another fun fact, the middle class is actually getting dragged below this line too.
I mean, in 2019, the World Bank named Nigeria the headquarters of poverty. I mean, we are still there. Yeah.
Very sad.
Very, very sad.
All right. Thank you so much, Pelumi, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Always
and enjoy the rest
Thank
of your day.
you.
Well, we'll just take a moment. When we come back, Business Morning continues. Stay with us. You're welcome back. It's time for morning calls at the market with Anete. Anete, a rebound at the equities has put a smile on your face and puts you in a good mood this morning.
Yes, I guess not just my face, as well as the investors in the equities market, which is, of course, one of our favorite markets and the barometer of Nigeria's economy. So, but let me tell you, it's 27 equities did that magic, and that they upturned the losses from 21 others. So now take a look at what we did yesterday, 0.15% up. But we're still within the 38,000 level, which, of course, was drawn by Airtel Africa's downturn, as well as some other components of the equities market. So, of course, just about 29.9 billion naira is what we gained yesterday, which translates to this percentage in terms of index performance. Then, if you take a look at the sectoral performance, banking sector was down, and it was kind of a mixed performance there. We had Access Bank gaining, we had FBN Holdings, we also had Zenith and UBA. But of course, the loss from ETI and GT Bank led to that 0.32% drop on the banking sector index, as well as the industrial goods counter. Well, some of the key components there led the insurance sector index in the red, as well as insurance. Okay, so now the oil and gas sector, of course, Seplat also did that magic. It was up. So crossing over to the still for yesterday we were up in terms of volume of trade, 1.8%, but we're down by 23.2% in terms of value, in contrast to the previous day. So it just tells you, one, the market is still sustaining that bull run, but then some pockets of profit taking is what is affecting the market. So fundamentally, stocks are still up. So over to the unlisted securities, it was down, and as well as the volume of transactions. So, but let's cross over to the fixed income markets, where yesterday there was a treasury bills auction, and the treasury bills market was kind of quiet. So to bring us up to speed as to yesterday's auction, let's speak with Adekemi Adenugba, who's an FX trader at FBN Merchant Bank. Thank you for joining us, Adekemi. Sorry, I think there was, okay, we lost some connection there. So now it just shows you that, one, at the treasury bills secondary market, it turned bullish from the bearish run that it recorded on Tuesday. So the average yield had contracted by 3 basis points. 2045 paper. It had about 14 deals there, and then cumulative was 64 total deals there. Over to the Treasury bills market, of course, like I mentioned, it was a quiet trading there because investors were still awaiting the results of the Treasury bills auction there. So we had just one deal there on the 9th of June 2022. For the central bank special bills, not much of movement there. The same thing for the OMO bills, just not much of activity there. So just tells you, one, that the fixed income market is still having some mild trading there. On Tuesday, the National Bureau of Statistics had released the inflation figure, which came down. But then, of course, the fixed income market is still trying to, search for direction for that. So we just have to keep our eyes crossed for next week for the fixed income markets.
All right, not just the fixed income market, Anita. We also have to see if there's more cherry picking in the equities and other markets. So thank you so much for all the updates this morning. So we'll take another break now. When we come back, we'll head to London. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. We head over to our studio in London now. Juliana is standing by. Good morning, Juliana. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning,
the traffic light system has generated a legal challenge from Ryanair. Can Ryanair actually force the relaxation of COVID rules?
But possibly, who knows, though I've got to say this isn't the first time a disgruntled airline boss has taken the government to court over the pandemic, and they haven't been successful just yet. But this is all down to the traffic light system, pretty controversial system that was supposed to replace the ban on international travel on the 17th of May. But Ryanair, alongside the Manchester Group, have now decided to push for legal action against the government because they believe the opaque processing system of determining which countries are or are not on the green list, which is basically the list, the list that says you don't need to quarantine when you get back, is just too shambolic. They said it's been undermining consumer confidence, and the airline industry have no ways of planning to get international travel back to where it once was. It is going to be a long process, but separately there have been some mullings this morning about potentially double vaccinated individuals in this UK being able to travel overseas without quarantining on the way back. Lots of pieces to this big puzzle, Inni.
Yeah, lots of pieces. Well, a study shows that the number of EU workers seeking jobs in the UK is almost half since 2016. Can this be connected to the drop in unemployment, which was released a few days ago?
Yeah, well, Indeed.com, a pretty famous job site here, they're the group that have conducted this research, and according to them, this is down to Brexit and the referendum that took place, historic referendum that took place in 2016. I can't believe that's actually 5 years ago now. But since then, a lot of EU workers haven't felt the same love, let's say, from Britain, and they've decided to pack up and leave. I think when non-essential retail and indoor hospitality opened in April, bosses did start to see a shortfall of staff. Staff were no longer available to work. It isn't just in the EU, it is also other foreign workers. But on the flip side, when it comes to higher paid, highly skilled workers, such as in tech and in science, they are seeing a lot of influx. So it's a huge issue, and it's something that the government will have to address. There has been a long-standing concern that a lot of British individuals don't want to do some work that foreigners may do without complaining.
Well, now that the US Fed has held rates, what's the market's reaction to this?
Yeah, we've had a busy week, haven't we, Innie, looking at all this a flurry of data that's been coming out of America, the UK and beyond. Of course, inflation is still going to be a topic of much discussion today, tomorrow, going into next week. But the next set of big data we have out of the UK is tomorrow. That's retail sales figures. A lot of people are watching retail because, of course, they have been hit the hardest during the pandemic, but the recovery seems to be ongoing and it's going very, very well. 9.2% rise in retail sales in the month of April. What are we going to get in May? We're not expecting it to be as much as it was then, but, you know, the weather's good. It's raining at the moment, but when the weather is good in the UK, people want to go out and spend, and now they've got places to go. So, yes, that's what we're waiting tomorrow, so I'm sure I'll be discussing that with you on Business Morning.
Yeah, I'll be expecting that, Juliana. Thank you so much, and do take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let's take a peep into the crypto market with Laddie Williams. Big television networks are getting into NTS. Fox Entertainment has put $100 million.
Exactly.
Laddie,
Well,
are you next?
NFTs are still the big thing now, and you know, these big networks are getting into it. It is a new trend. We'll still keep tracking how that trend ends, but market not looking too good on a Thursday. Bitcoin is in the red, Ethereum red, and a couple of altcoins too in the red today. I know, Innie, we normally expect that to happen on Fridays, but we're having that on a Thursday. Bitcoin is below $40,000 right now. Market cap, $1.63 trillion traded in the total crypto market, down 2.21%. 24-hour volume is up a whooping 154% this morning. Bitcoin dominance, 45.15%. Let's look at the price of Bitcoin, $39,238 this morning, down about 2.90%. 24-hour volume, $40.45 billion traded in Bitcoin this morning. Let's talk to Solomon Amunde now to make sense of this new trend. Hello, Solomon.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Laddie.
Good morning, Solomon. Great to have you. So this new NFT craze with big television networks. First it was CNBC. Now we have CNN selling NFTs. Tell us about this trend.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to experiment on what NFTs has to offer to the crypto space and the entire crypto ecosystem too. So what they are doing basically is similar to what Eternity Chain started doing first quarter of this year. And Eternity Chain, we are selling NFTs of celebrities like Muhammad Ali. They sold NFTs of Muhammad Ali, and also for Pepe, the footballer, they minted some of his NFTs and sold that. So CNN, they are doing a similar thing. They want to mint NFTs that would replicate what they have been doing for the past 41 years, that since when they were founded. So they will sell these NFTs to the public, and for me, I just see it as a way that they're using to test the whole NFT system and how it works.
How high do you think these NFTs will cost? Because they always cost crazy amount of money.
Yeah, for a media outlet like CNN, I would say they would go over $100,000 because they would want to make them as scarce as possible, and this will be representing all their historic moments, activities they have done in the past, and it will also represent the growth that they have gone through for the past 41 years. So I expect these NFTs to go as high as $1 million, and it will also be dependent on the quantity and how scarce they would make them, and if they will make them unique.
All right. So are you going to be buying any?
No, I don't intend to buy any. I feel over time they would lose value for NFTs like this. They would lose value over time. The NFTs that I'm interested in are the DeFi NFTs, the one that would unlock the potential for you to earn higher return on your investments. Those are the ones I'm interested in.
All right, so MicroStrategy is back in the news again, raising $500 million to buy more Bitcoin. Is this about buying the dip?
Not necessarily. I think the CEO of MicroStrategy has actually unlocked the secret in Bitcoin, and so far so good. He's been on an investment spree when it comes to Bitcoin. So far, they are holding almost 100,000 Bitcoins, and now they're planning to sell out stocks. of about $1 billion to buy bitcoins. And last week we saw them sell out bonds of almost $500 million to be used to also purchase bitcoins, which they haven't done yet. So I see them going deep into this for the long term, 10, 15 years, and the reward will be massive for them.
Anyway, Bitcoin has been flirting with this 200-day moving average, not been able to break it for a while now. Where do you see Bitcoin going?
Yeah, I still expect us to trade between 36,000 and 44,000, as I said, this month, maybe second week of next month, before we break out of that range. So this year, I'm still expecting Bitcoin to go over $150,000 this year.
Okay. All right, Solomon. Always great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, there we have it. Top all-time market cap, BNB down 1%. ADA, Cardano, $1.53, down 2%. So it's all red for most altcoins in the market right now. Top 5 gainers, we have AMP, QNT, Leo, Atom, Waves, all up at 21, 12, 11, and 9, and 8%. So it's not looking so bad.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering, now that we have the Bitcoin parts in the red today, Thursday, and normally Fridays are the red days, I wonder what's going to
what happens to Friday? I know,
Oh,
yeah.
we just have to wait a couple of hours anyway.
Yeah, and Ini, I wonder if you're going to be selling any NFTs. I don't know.
Well, I'll think about that, and I'll let you know privately.
All right, no problem.
Well, that's a wrap on the program today. Thank you so much for watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Do remember that we'll bring you updates from the world of business at 1:30 during our program, Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Thank you for watching.